Hey everybody, it's Monday, so let's raid my lab. So I thought about, instead of just showing you my one development PC, I would kind of show you all the PCs in the office and what they're for. And we'll start with some laptops. This is Old Faithful. This is a 17-inch Toshiba. Now, I didn't clean anything for you. I didn't do anything for you, but this is just what it is. This is a P75 A7100 17-inch, just beast of a laptop. It has 16 gigs of RAM and has two drives in it. It has a spinning drive and a 512 SSD. I know it's gonna be a little hard to see, but this thing is actually broken on every single corner. If I were to, let me give you a good angle here. Every single corner of this thing has been beat up, and I think this thing is from 2015. And this computer kind of highlights what I think is wrong with computers today. This thing was $599 and has a full-size keyboard, number pad, 17-inch screen, got respectable battery life at the time, Core i7, and it was $699. And now, you know, for $699, like, you're just not going to get anything. You're going to get something that has 256 gig drive and maybe an i5, but just nothing impressive out there right now for me. So I still have Old Faithful. This thing has cruddy battery life. It is beat to death, broken on all four corners, but I do have it. Now this one is a little different, and I almost think this thing deserves its own video. This is called the Acer Swift One, and it is a very light and thin laptop, and I would say it's not much bigger than a 13-inch MacBook, if any bigger, but it has, you know, full HDMI port, USB-C, two USB 3.0s, SD card slot, you know, all that kind of stuff on the side, and the build quality is fantastic on it. So what's the catch? Well, first of all, it is, and I'm not kidding, it is a Pentium Silver N500. And so for somebody who has a whole room full of computers, it's kind of crazy that I bought this laptop. But the thing that's most important is right here, 17-hour battery life. And they are not joking. I get between 15 and 17 hours in this thing regularly. And so to me, this laptop is the ultimate travel coding laptop. And so its downside is it has 4 gigs of RAM, and it comes with a just horrific 64 gig SSD in there. But what it does have is an M.2 slot. So I was able to put a 512 gig screaming fast SSD in this thing, and it's not a great everyday laptop. Like, it's not super powerful or anything like that, but on a plane or traveling or something like that, this is about as awesome as it gets for a total of, you ready for this? $315 with the SSD. So I spent $250 on the laptop, like 60 some dollars on the SSD, which you might even be able to get cheaper now. And this thing for that rocks. Like, I will do cross-country trips, transatlantic trips, and never even think about plugging this thing in. I was given this laptop by a good friend, and it is by a company called Vant, and this is very cool. It's got, this is kind of my new everyday laptop. Came with Linux on it. I have Linux, in addition to, just like my other bigger laptop, this thing actually has 3 SATA ports inside. So an M.2, an M.2 SATA, and a full-size SATA. So I actually run Windows 10 and Linux on this thing. And this thing has the coolest feature. For one thing, it was originally from Spain, so I have a Spanish keyboard here. You'll notice letters get real weird when you get over to this side of the keyboard. But I was able to find an American keyboard for it, which is fantastic. But the real trick that this thing has, this is a Core i5 8th generation. But what's really amazing about this is that in a pinch, I can take the M.2 SSD out of my out of my, what do they call that now? Out of my Ryzen 2700X. So, okay, let me slow down here for a second. This is an 8th generation Intel. My main computer is a Ryzen 2700X, and I can take the SSD out of that one and it will boot in this one and just run. I sometimes have to install the graphics drivers, but I can take this thing. This has Intel graphics, the other one has NVIDIA graphics, this has an Intel processor, the other one has an AMD processor, and for some strange reason, Windows 10 will just go right from one to the other. So in the event that the other computer breaks, this is my backup. My entire business can run off of this thing. So this is my main development PC in all its glory. It has 6 27-inch monitors and a Ryzen 2700X, 16 gigs of RAM, NVIDIA 1050 Ti and a 750 Ti maybe. I don't do any gaming at all. Mechanical keyboard, really nice mouse and all that kind of stuff. But this is my baby. And let me give you a little bit of an idea of my workflow. So the question I get asked over and over again about the whole 6 monitor thing is why? First of all, why not? I spent about $120. Some of them were in the $110 range, some were $130, but on average I spent about $120 on each monitor. And the way I like to work is if I'm taking some kind of course or just listening to music, I like to have that in the upper left-hand corner. On the lower left-hand corner, I like to have any databases I'm managing, or if I'm writing on the Arduino IDE, I keep the IDE over there. Generally, I write a lot of web-based code, but kind of regardless of what I write, the output of my code goes on the top screen, and the bottom is where I actually do the coding. So if I'm writing Python, then my code is here, the output's here. If I'm writing PHP or Node or any of those things, then I'm writing down here, looking at the output up here. Communications over here on the right, I do a lot of support on Discord. I have a fair amount of communication on Slack. My email, my text messages, all that stuff stays in the upper right hand corner. And then I manage a lot of remote servers. And so I have file managers, PuTTY, WinSCP, all those types of things sit over here. And I manage servers that way, use some VNC, all that kind of stuff. So basically anything involving moving junk around sits over here to the lower right. One of the things I'm kind of dealing with right now is that I don't want to be running Windows 10 on this computer. I would much rather be running Linux. The problem is I haven't found an install combination that works really well with the 6 monitors. I can get them to work, but it just becomes a horrific experience once you get above 4. I don't really know what it is. I've tried AMD graphics cards, I've tried NVIDIA graphics cards, but no matter what I do, once I get up into the 5 monitor range, everything just starts acting really funky. So, I just have to deal with the fact that every once in a while I'll come in here and my computer will have rebooted and it just becomes practically unusable because Microsoft stinks so bad. So a couple of the things I want to show you while I'm over here, I've got there's 14 USB 3 ports here plus some more back there. I use the snot out of these little pluggable ports. I also have a Raspberry Pi here that kind of serves as the primary Raspberry Pi server of the office. Has all of my Node-RED and MQTT on it. I also have this Raspberry Pi over here that is another Node-RED server that I just kind of use when I'm doing some YouTube videos. If I want to be able to just kind of write things freely without revealing too much about my network, I do it on this Pi. I've got a monitor over here that's just on the wall and acts as my monitor for my servers. There is this 42-inch TV that is the monitor for the Pis, can also be a monitor for the servers. Like I said, I didn't clean much up for you guys, but back here is one of these little thin client Asus, I don't know, some kind of Asus box or whatever, but that is another low power, low energy computer that I primarily use for writing point of sale software. It runs my label printer. It runs, let me see if I can get this stuff out of the way here. It runs this standard USB receipt printer. There's a cash drawer under here. This is a Bluetooth receipt printer. Has its own monitor over here. But basically, I write some point of sale software, and so I need to be able to test to make sure that I can trigger cash drawers and that my receipts are printing properly and all that kind of stuff. So I do that down here on this standalone computer. It doesn't get a lot of use. It stays off most of the time, but it is there. The other thing with the point of sale software is I do some touchscreen software. And so this is a Dell AllinOne Core i5 that desperately needs an SSD in it. It is, the I/O is just crawling on it. But basically I use this one for anytime I need to write something touchscreen. And I think it makes its way into a couple of videos. Every once in a while I'll bring it down to the desk when I want a real computer to shoot in the videos with. It's kind of all compact. Coming back over here, I've got my little maker station, which there'll be a separate video about that, but there's a monitor up here that is connected to this Lenovo Core i3 system, and it serves kind of a couple of purposes. For one thing, my old school CNC requires a parallel port and 32-bit operating system, so this takes care of both of those. I only have 4 gigs of RAM in this one, and I use it basically anytime I have something that needs to be 32-bit, and it controls the CNC and then also controls the laser over here. I'm fortunate enough, I spent $15 on this computer, and when I bought it, I actually bought its twin up there, so I have a whole second one that I can use whenever I need to, should this thing break, because it is getting harder and harder to find one with a parallel port. So that's what these things do: laser, CNC, plus a backup, plus 32-bit stuff. So I don't know if you figured this out, but for me, redundancy is extremely important. The software that I write and the software that I manage, the servers that I manage, are absolutely mission critical. So I don't play games with things breaking down. So these are 2 Xeon servers. I got these for $20 each. And I'll pull one down and actually show you. We'll look at the insides because I have the one on the right shut down so I can demonstrate it. But these are some pretty cool servers, and I use them for a bunch of different things that I'll explain a little bit more once they're on the bench. So the story with these things, this is a Xeon E-Series server with an 8-core 16-thread processor and 64 gigs of RAM. Has 8 gig sticks in it. Right now it actually has 2 desktop graphics cards, and there's a reason for that. But I wrote some software for a company that basically decided that they had made enough money and the guy was going to retire, and so I was able to buy these servers never having even been run. They booted them up, made sure there was nothing personal on them, and I bought these $20 a piece. And so what a sweet deal, what a huge blessing. And so this one here does several things. It either acts as a workstation where, as I'm playing around with different Linux builds for my own use, I will fire this one up with 6 monitors also and just see how everything works and all that. But more likely, usually what it does is this one is a virtualization server. So this one runs Vertman, and it will run different Linux distributions and things like that on there. And a lot of it is, I build a lot of virtual servers in the cloud, and sometimes it's nice to just be able to test things here. I can take the exact same operating system and just fire up an instance of that operating system here. So this does all my virtualization. The twin of this one, the one that's actually in service right now, is actually just running Windows 10. The plan is that when I get off of Windows 10 on all my other systems, that one will stay Microsoft just to allow it to run software that I might not be able to run on other machines. So that one handles certain backup systems and certain cameras and things like that I don't want to mess around trying to get them to run right on Linux. So yeah, so in the event that the other one fails, I can just swap everything over to this one and keep rolling. And that is my computer collection. Like, I realize that I'm just extremely blessed to be able to get to play with this stuff on a daily basis and to have to walk 100 feet to work every day. And so I just figured I'd share with you what I have and what it does. Thanks for watching.